How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another edition of LandO's Lock-ins, the series in which we do our darndest, we do our very best, make the most accurate CDO pick-em predictions possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to LandO's Lock-ins. We are in actually our hotel. Yes, I joined you live from the the OpTic Texas Major at my hotel in Arlington, Texas. This is obviously not our regular setup. I wanted to do it in on location. I think it's just more fun, a little bit of a different setup. I'm currently recording audio on my computer and on my phone, so I hope that it sounds good. If not, bear with me. I remembered everything. I transferred the graphics over. I even bought better internet. So hopefully this video actually does eventually see YouTube. But I bought better internet and I was setting things up and I was like, I forgot the microphone. I forgot the good microphone. So again, I apologize if the quality is not great. Bear with me. We'll hopefully get this settled at some point. But if this is your guys' first time checking out the series, again, welcome to you. This is essentially the pick'ems, right? I just kind of go through all of my pick'ems. We talk about it. It's my favorite part. We talk about it. We go over our thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes we do well. Sometimes we're pretty average, I would say. Like, we had some really good weeks throughout Major 3. There was one week where we went 8-2, almost went 9-1. And then last week, I don't want to talk about it. I think we went like 3-7 or something like that. So we're hoping for a better performance when it comes to Major time. And I'll be frank with you guys. I know that everybody's talking about it. It seems like the hot thing to say right now, but it's true. I literally think that there are like 6 or if not 7 teams who absolutely have the ability to win the Major. And as of right now, I've not decided who I think is going to win yet. So we're going to chat about that and go through this whole process together. So, well, let's go ahead and jump in. I have like not super long. I almost checked my wrist as if I have a watch on. I don't have super long to record this. I'm hoping I can have enough time as we're getting ready to go to a talent team lunch, and then we've got rehearsals and stuff, so I'm gonna have to head over there soon. But let us go ahead and see our first series, which is Seattle and LAG. I'm gonna buzz through a lot of these much faster than I would do obviously online from at home, obvious reasons. Honestly, I am siding with Seattle here. I know there are a few people who are pretty happy about the way the Gorillas' performances have been lately. I'm just not one of those people, I'll be honest. Like, I'm still not 100% sold on the LA Gorillas right now. I think Seattle are obviously on that unbelievably hot spree. The S&D looks much better. I will say the LAG has some interesting, opportunities here in the S&D vetoes for sure. But when it comes in a hard point, the Gorillas, obviously the hard point has taken such a huge hit. You like Seattle there. I think you should like Seattle more in the control. And then if you give them the right search destroy map, I think they can win that as well. So, I honestly think that it's probably going to be Seattle game 1, Seattle game 2. LAG maybe answers in, game 3, or maybe they win the S&D, but I just like Surge here in 4. I do. If not, honestly, 3. I feel like this could just be a quick walkover, depending on how well that Seattle really honestly end up playing. But all the focus for me is on the LA Gorillas. We've seen this Seattle before. Sometimes they're not great, finishing top 12, losing every search destroy, and then there's sometimes where they're just absolutely elite. I think this tournament, they very well could be back to elite status. We will see. Let's find out who Seattle's going to face. A big one, right? A huge, huge series. These teams have matched up a few times so far throughout the season already. Most notably, this is our Major 2 finals. This is also our COD Champs Grand Finals from last season. How does it go this time? It's a tough one, right? Because last time LA Thieves, they lost in the opening round to OpTic Texas, I want to say. Made the crazy lower bracket run. Atlanta FaZe, I don't know the records on this, but surely they've never, or commonly at least, ever really started in the lower bracket, at least that early on in the tournament. So let me go ahead and actually pull up a few of these results. I want to see, when was there, so they faced off once, they faced off twice. Okay, so this is their third matchup so far throughout this year. Oh wait, no, sorry, that's right. They played the Major 3 qualifiers. That's okay. I remember there was like one thing where I was forgetting that they had played. So this will be their 4th matchup of the season. LA Thieves recently won it, and that kind of actually strengthens my argument because I think we can all agree FaZe's S&D is out of this world spectacular. Respawns are a little iffy, right? The hardpoints are obviously very iffy. The control isn't, it's good, but, seeing them get 3-0'd by OpTic on hotel control was a little concerning. So I am going to probably go with an upset here. I know we don't have the fan polls to look at in a lot of people's predictions, which I would love to see. I imagine a lot of people are going to go for FaZe here, but I am going to say that Thieves actually end up winning this. I think this is going to be a 3-1. Again, I like Thieves to both the hard points. I think they have an opportunity to actually win an S&D or the control. Listen, I understand, the FaZe S&D winning streak. They are by far, at least in my opinion, one of the best S&D teams ever. But the streak has to get broken at some point, and I feel like Thieves on LAN, it could be the opportunity where they come out, they surprise, maybe they win around 11. FaZe have had some close matches throughout this, winning streak and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a surprise pick. It's an interesting one, but I'm gonna say the Thieves take it. And already we have LAG and FaZe in the lower bracket. We jump to Boston and OpTic, Texas. This is also a fun one too. Just given the fact that Boston have had some really good moments throughout the major 3 qualifiers. There were a lot of people who were kind of doubting them, talking about how they had a very easy schedule. I was somebody who obviously said that as well. And then in one of their last matches, they come out, they beat LA Thieves in a game 5, which was very impressive. On the flip side for OpTic Texas, they just come out and they just beat FaZe. So you have 2 teams who literally just came out of beating our number 1 and our number 2 team, technically based off of power ranking. So how do those 2 teams, match up against each other? We all know, the conversation around OpTic Texas is going to be more specifically around their search destroy. I think it's fair, to bring that up. They did lose the S&D versus FaZe. They lost the S&D versus New York. They lost the S&D versus Toronto versus LAG in the game 2. So to me, their S&D is by no means polished. And on the other side, for Boston, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this lineup actually does play. When it comes down to a LAN environment, we've seen those opportunities where, players just have takeover moments. I mean, Nero, it feels like if you get him on an LSEL control, he is going to dominate. They have the new powerhouse weapon in Beans. So this is going to be a tall task, really, for both teams, I think. And so I'm honestly having a hard time trying to produce what would be an accurate prediction. Do I think the crowd plays a decent factor in it? I do. And I think not just because of that reason, I just don't see a way that OpTic loses this in this sense, because I know I'm listing it as a game 5. The reasoning is because I do think that Boston is a wonderful hardpoint team. I don't think that we have still yet seen the talent that this Texas team can produce in hardpoint. Now, the S&Ds and the controls are a totally different story. I'm just talking specifically from a hardpoint. And the reasoning for why I say that is because I feel like Boston is a team that relies very heavily on the hard points. Like if they have an LSEL control or just, certain controls in general, they can look good on it. But I feel like they really, really rely on the respawns. Thankfully they've won some game 5s lately. But I just think this is a tricky series that maybe comes down to one of the final rounds. But all in all, I like OpTic Texas more. I feel more comfortable going with OpTic, even though I'm sure it's a difficult time right now, right? They, it feels like most of their games lately are 3-0s, or 0-3s. They come out, they look great. They come out, they don't look great. But I think in this series, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a close one. But I think that Texas closes it out. And unfortunately for Boston, another Game 5 loss. But they look better in Game 5s lately. Next one, this is also just a very tough one. Toronto versus New York. Ultra obviously have looked so much better with the new addition of Hixie, but they are also off of a surprise loss. They end up losing that series versus the Ravens. So, we would have been talking about how Toronto is maybe a favorite coming into this tournament if they wouldn't have lost versus the London Royal Ravens. On the other side for the New York Subliners, they are off of a 3-0 loss to the Seattle Surge. Prior to that, they looked great versus OpTic Texas. So again, it just feels like for every single team that we have, they all have a weakness. I think the reasoning why we're all talking about how, this team could win it, this team could win it, is because they've all looked amazing at certain moments, and they've all lost games where we're like, wait a second, they shouldn't be losing that. So you can obviously say it right now for Toronto and New York. Both teams are obviously off of somewhat of a questionable loss. I've been very highly talking about Toronto. I didn't think that New York was going to beat OpTic. They come out and they 3-0 OpTic Texas. I don't know. This is honestly one that I've gone back and forth on. I might have to just flip a coin to kind of actually give a full-on prediction for this. But, when you look at the the battles they're going to be going down between the the different roles. I mean, really excited to see Hydra face off against Kleenex. That's always a really fun battle. We talk about the ARs. This is also going to be a really fun fight. To see Scrappy facing off against Skies and Priest, I think will be good. I don't know. Like, I just it's almost a situation where both teams are on the cusp of being given like the props that they deserve in some ways. Like Toronto has been just under where we expect them to be. New York, they come up, they win the first tournament, and it feels like they're trying to show us, hey, we're still there. We're still one of those teams. And it's like they have one of those moments where we're like, are you? Like, are you 100% there? I just do feel a little bit more comfortable with going with Ultra, I think, here when it comes to respawns. I feel like New York, their S&D has improved, but there's been times where, like I said, the hardpoint has lacked a little bit. There's been times where you can't really rely on them to close out the HP, so the S&D then becomes that much more of a focus. Losing a 3-0 to Surge, I feel like this is almost like kind of what Toronto's going to do. Like, Toronto's going to come out, be very strong in the opening hardpoint. They stand without a doubt a chance to win the S&D, and then, Toronto can win controls as well. It feels like you have a New York team that sometimes looks fantastic in certain modes, and then one mode kind of lacks. Toronto's kind of just been there in every single mode. And while New York has the, better placements, they obviously won the opening major. I'm going to say Ultra wins it. I think that there's been a lot of talk about their online performance. Can they actually, do anything off of that? And I think that they are able to. I do. I think that they're able to win this. I'm actually going to go and switch this Seattle LAG pick to a 3-0. I think we're going to see at least one 3-0 on the day. I'm going to say this is a Toronto 3-1 victory. That just feels right. It feels like at least New York are going to put up a fight for sure. It's not going to be a one-sided affair by any stretch, but that's the way that our opening first few matches look. And I'll be honest, like, that was tough. Like, I constantly kept thinking to myself, is that right? Is that where it should be? We have Seattle, LA Thieves, OpTic, Ultra. We got to work a little bit quicker on the lower bracket now to make sure this is lined up. So yes, I know you'll see the edge of OBS. You can kind of see it. You can see the bottom of Florida here. So that means we would have LAG versus Vegas. Goodness, I don't know. My heart's instantly like a quick reaction, quick thought. If you were to say, all right, who are you picking? 3 seconds. I think I might go for LAG. I don't know. I just feel like the vibe around Vegas is a little off. I really like their Search Destroy, of course, but the respawns just have not been as consistent as I think we would want them to be, even with the new additions that they've had to the lineup. They had the chance to close out the Gorillas, which is actually funny enough. This is the matchup that we're having right here. They had the opportunity to close out the Gorillas, online. They were not able to do it, which was pretty concerning. It felt like they had the opportunity to seize the winners bracket. I know they've had some big W's, right? They, managed to take down Minnesota. They managed to take down Thieves 3-1 to kick it off. I don't know. I just feel like for LAG, the moves are not done yet. I know that Vegas, they get better on land, but I just have a feeling. I do. I just have a feeling that it's going to be a Game 5. Gorillas close it out, nail-biter type of performance, but the Gorillas just have enough grit to get it done. We'll move on to FaZe versus Rocker. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go very quick with this one. I've talked about it a lot. I've not been a fan of Minnesota so far. Of course, throughout their 0-5. But even before, just in the early performances, the S&D already to me was a little bit of a concern. The respawns are no longer guaranteed. It just feels like a change is going to happen for them. And so I would be surprised if they don't get smacked around in a 3-0 fashion versus FaZe. I think the opening hardpoint will at least be close, but if FaZe goes up 2-0, in this series, it's going to be wraps pretty fast. So I think Minnesota goes out top 12. Same thing for Vegas. Boston versus London. So this is going to be an intriguing one because it feels like for the Ravens, they've had so many close games, they've had so many close performances, and maybe there's just a chance where they could come out and surprise. To kick off the Major 3 qualifiers, these two teams faced off against each other. It was Beans' first game, and he did not play well. The Ravens blew a huge lead on Hotel Hardpoint. Jay and I had the cast for that, and I just kept thinking Ravens should be 1-0. Ravens should be 1-0. We all know, the close games that they've had. They beat the Gorillas in a wild Game 5 round 11 that they just kept allowing clutches. They end up losing to Seattle Surge, and then they have that close, win versus Toronto Ultra. So I don't know. I actually think that I'm gonna go for a surprise pick. There's gonna be some. Like I know that some people are like, wait a second, you just talked highly about Boston Breach and you're gonna have them top 12. Somebody's gonna get upset, right? It's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna have an upset occur. Do I think that the Ravens win this series? Not necessarily, but you gotta have some upsets here and there. And I'm just gonna go for the Ravens. I think that they deserve some props for the way that they've been playing. I think the new role changes worked out well for them. And I think that Boston gets surprised here. We'll jump in now to New York versus Florida, which is also an interesting one. I know we already chatted a bit about the New York side, talking more about the Florida Mutineers. It wasn't the qualifier that we hoped it would be, for this new team. They had some close matches. Some were not at all close. They had that one big victory over the Boston Breach. And then other than that, not a whole lot to speak of. They take the Gorillas to a Game 5. I thought that was going to be Florida's chance to answer, to look really solid. They weren't able to do that. And the S&Ds are just not there. New York, the team that's looking better in Search and Destroy all the time. I think the hardpoints are where we kind of question them at. And Florida obviously has been one of the worst hardpoint teams this season so far through the qualifiers. It's been, just a little below average, but I think in all accounts, I like New York more here. I think New York is able to take it probably in a 3-0, could be a 3-1, but I just like the subliners up and down in this one. I think matchup-wise, it just does not work out well for the Mutineers. We'll go ahead and take a look at Elimination Round 2, LAG versus Atlanta. This is always a fun game to see because this was the original LAG Academy team, that was able to take both of those hard points versus FaZe. How do they end up squaring up this time around? They played during the Major 2 qualifiers. It also went to a Game 5. LAG started off really, really well. Jay and I had the cast for that, and I just kept thinking, what a thrown away opportunity that the Gorillas had. Getting right into predictions for it, I actually do think that this one will be close. I think that LAG, for whatever reason, are going to come out, look really good in the hardpoint, at least maybe off the opener. Like, this is a chance for LAG to actually face off against a team who's not amazing in hardpoint and is almost similar to them in the S&Ds and the control. That could very much be, a preferred matchup for FaZe. I just think that LAG might take a bit of advantage of it. Now, I don't think that FaZe get out in this round. I just think there's a chance that it goes to 5. I'm looking for those extra points is honestly what it is. Because it's difficult to call. Like, will FaZe really, 3-0 LAG? Will LAG at least get a map? I think that they'll get 2, but I think that Atlanta probably close out the Game 5 in pretty easy fashion, to be frank. So I say that FaZe moves on. New York versus London. I don't know. Like, I just keep wanting to go with London in some of these matchups, even though it feels like a very risky pick. Like, them even being elimination round 2 is hard to call even in itself. But I don't know. I think that that New York are able to escape it. I hesitate, but I am going to go with the Ravens to lose this series. They get out top 8, play well, can leave the tournament knowing that they at least beat Boston. They had a good showing maybe versus New York, but they just didn't start in winners. They just didn't start in winners. They had their opportunities. Maybe it could have been a different story if it goes the other way. But I think NYSL do stay alive. They answer. They also get some momentum off of the matchup versus Florida. So let us go ahead and move on up to the winners bracket side. Again, I just want to make sure you guys can actually see this. There we go. Okay. So we have Seattle versus the LA Thieves. So this is I don't know. So this is a conflicting one for me because I feel like every time that Seattle, or rather the Thieves, play off against a treacherous, inconsistent type of roster or a team that's like recently making a run, they always punish them. But Surge is just a different beast when it comes down to situations like this. So the hardpoints are going to be fun. I feel like Seattle and Thieves could start to become the 2 greatest hardpoint teams that we have in the game. At least from a LAN perspective, right? We know the run that Thieves went on last time that they were on LAN. I think that honestly it really comes down to the opening hardpoint because the S&D is going to be somewhat of a toss-up. Thieves sometimes look great in S&D, sometimes they're not. I know that they closed out the Major 3 qualifiers looking pretty good in Search and Destroy. I think they go 3-1 in their last 4, and then obviously lose the LSCLO versus Boston. But I think I want to go for Thieves here, but I just have a feeling that Seattle are going to do something crazy. Like, you guys know how much of a fan I am when it comes down to the LA Thieves. I think that opening hardpoint's going to be big. These teams did play off in the Major 3 qualifiers. Seattle won the opening hardpoint, and then Thieves won the next 3. I think the vetoes are going to be important, because Seattle could go up 2-0. I think that this is a Game 5, and I'm going to say that Seattle take it. I don't know why. Again, I'm going for some crazy picks. I'm not trying to, analyze everything and be like, well, this team's the favorite, they have to win it. You're going to have some surprises. You're going to have it's COD, right? You're going to have some games that just don't make any sense. But I don't know. I think that Seattle just have the magic here. I think Seattle have the magic. They take it versus the Thieves. And then we'll jump in now to OpTic versus Toronto. So this has been a very, very heated series of events that we've seen lately between these teams. I think Toronto 3-0'd OpTic at Raleigh, and then they played in the Major 2 qualifiers. OpTic was able to beat them 3-1. Shotzi has that moment where he just absolutely toes Scrappy, and then Scrappy, whenever they 3-0'd OpTic in the Major 3 qualifiers, basically just said, yeah, Shotzi, what are you doing? You're just dolphin diving around the map. It's not really, get in the hill, basically, get your kills, do whatever. So this is going to be a fun one. The crowd is absolutely not going to be on Toronto's side. You have some of those matchups sometimes, so the crowd's obviously we want OpTic to win, but we don't hate the other team. I think they're going to hate Ultra. I do. Prediction-wise, this is where the inconsistency at times of OpTic Texas can scare me. Like I said, I think they're going to have some series where they look great, and then they're going to run into a matchup versus Toronto, who I feel like just are very well-rounded in a multitude of different game modes. Whenever you just think of Toronto, it's they stand a chance in pretty much everything. OpTic, you have your concerns about S&D, you have your concerns at times in control. If they're not winning the hard points, how could that, really work out for them? So I'm going to say that Toronto takes this. I think that this also has the chance to be a Game 5. I think this is an interesting and a very competitive series. I think that OpTic maybe squanders a few opportunities in the Game 5 and Toronto takes it. But that is a hard prediction, I'll be honest. That is a very, very tough prediction to make. Yeah, I think Toronto take it. I think Toronto do. We have Toronto and we have Seattle in our winners finals, which is it's just all right, cool. Why not? I may go and give the prediction for this one just so I can move down to the lower bracket. We can kind of siphon through all those and get done here. Seattle versus Toronto. Wow. I haven't even thought, like I said, this is me making my bracket live. So I haven't really even thought about, what this matchup would look like, how these teams would face off against each other. This might be the first time they've played this season. No, okay, they did play in the Major 1 qualifiers. Obviously, same teams except for Standy, and Toronto ended up winning that in the 3-1. So it's been a long time since these teams have faced off against each other. In terms of styles and just different things, Seattle, like I said, opening hard points I think are going to be a big thing for them this tournament. I think they are going to be able to win their S&Ds. To be honest, it's just a matter of how clean do these teams look coming into this matchup. Are Toronto looking solid across all modes, or Seattle still winning their S&Ds? And it's hard when you're making predictions because you're just kind of yeah, I think this team moves forward, but how do they win that series? And so if I'm judging based off of that, right, Seattle, Game 5 victory versus the Thieves, dominant win versus the Gorillas. I think on the other side for Toronto, they've got some tall, tasks, right? They have New York, then they have to face off against OpTic Texas, which I think is a grueler. So Seattle have looked cleaner, but Toronto have had the more difficult matchups to get here. I think I'm going to go with Seattle. I am. I'm going to go with Seattle to make it to the grand finals. Like I said, man, Raleigh in the grand finals, Major 2, top 12. I said it on LandO's tiers. This very well could be the last time that we see this Seattle Surge 4-man lineup. Together, if they don't perform, if they don't look good, and now I'm calling them to be top 2 again, which is absurd. But that's the way we're going to do it. That's the way we're going to do it. I think Seattle looked good in this series. 3-1 Toronto Ultra. I just got to move on. I do. This whole Seattle Surge thing, even going back to last season, is just wild. This team just sometimes is absolutely elite. And now, take a look at our lower bracket. OpTic versus FaZe again. Oh, wow. Did not know those were going to be the matchups. OpTic versus FaZe again. Jay and I have obviously casted both of those series so far. OpTic Texas just tends to turn up whenever they face off against FaZe. However, we're going to be on land. The last time that these teams faced off in Arlington at the Esports Stadium, OpTic beat them not once, but twice. Can they make it 3 times in a row? Can they make it, what is it, like 8-2 overall, going back to last year in Vanguard? This is so difficult because, like, this is just not a, this is just not a series that, like, FaZe loses. I feel like this is just not a series that FaZe commonly loses. Is this the streak change up? I think it does. I think that it does. Again, I like this OpTic Texas team, but there's no way that it happens again. Like, there's no way that FaZe squanders this opportunity. There is surely no way. We got to move on. OpTic Texas gets eliminated early from the tournament. They have some good moments, but it's just not the placement that they would have liked, and maybe more changes end up happening with the roster. Who knows? Goodness, that is just that is a hard one. That is a very, very difficult one. FaZe, big game. I don't even have time to react to that. LA Thieves versus New York. Oh God, that is also a tough one to call. 2 top teams in the game. At times have both looked absolutely fantastic. They did face off at Major 2. LA Thieves 3-0'd them. That's how New York got eliminated from the tournament. However, NYSL, that wasn't the same New York team for sure. Whether that was flights or, just in general, just fatigue, whatever it may be. I think the Thieves honestly end up winning it, which is wild because how do we see this matchup again? I feel like I'm like totally debating on how would this even work? Is this even possible? Thieves take it. I don't know. Thieves end up winning it 3-2. It's a good series. Let's just move on. Atlanta versus Thieves again. Oh, God, who wins this one? Can the Thieves knock out Atlanta? Can Atlanta stay up? Atlanta just, like I said, man, they're always like top 3 at least. This is obviously for top 4. FaZe versus Thieves. Like I said, last time around, it was Thieves who ended up taking it. Can they beat FaZe twice? No, I don't think they do. I don't think Thieves beat FaZe twice. I think Atlanta off that game versus OpTic have got to be feeling it. They beat they beat OpTic. They move in. They beat the Thieves 3-1, and then now it is Atlanta versus Toronto, one of the classic franchise matchups that we've had throughout CDL history. Toronto, like we said, just off of that loss versus Seattle. So who wins this one? Right? Who wins this one? Is it Atlanta? Is it Ultra? Like I said, for Toronto, I really like the team. I still have my doubts with Ultra at times. I like Hixie a lot, but when you're facing off against Simp and Abizi, if one of your guys has an off series, it doesn't go well. And I feel like historically, Scrappy has not played the greatest, I want to say, versus Atlanta. I want to say that at Major 2, they got 3-0'd by them, and I think at Major 1, they got 3-1'd. And I want to say in both those games, Scrappy did not play well. So if that happens again, a lot of the pressure falls on Hixie to try to, level up the slang. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. I think the FaZe end up winning this series. We'll say 3-0. Honestly, let's go for a wild prediction. We'll say FaZe wins it, and then now we have Atlanta versus Seattle, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure, and again, this is obviously not planned. Like, I'm not trying to, rewrite history here, word for word. But I want to say that this was our Major 3 final back last season. Am I correct on that? I'm almost positive. Let me verify. Let me go to Major 3 here and just check. It was. And Seattle managed to beat Atlanta FaZe. And I think at that tournament, Seattle had one of the craziest series in the winners finals versus FaZe that allowed for them to get to the finals. And then after that, they ended up beating Atlanta 5-3 in the grand finals as well. Wow. So we have a grand final rematch. I'm going to say FaZe takes it. I'm going to say that FaZe takes it. I know I've kind of, at times I'm like breaking stuff down. Sometimes I'm just kind of going for a feeling. I think that Seattle are good. I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, if FaZe is coming off of victories versus OpTic, victories versus Thieves, and Ultra, I don't know. Like, I don't see a world in which Seattle managed are able to do it. I know that Seattle have had previous wonderful moments versus FaZe, in Arlington at the Esports Stadium. They've had some crazy moments throughout COD history where they've been able to beat Atlanta. It's hard to say that it happens again, right? The odds end up going that way again. I'm going to say this is a 4-2 win. I think S&D's managed to get FaZe through, and with that, we will go ahead and save the predictions. That way we cannot change anything. You can see it cannot be modified. We're locking it in, and that is the way that our bracket ends up winding out. FaZe back-to-back, some wild series throughout this one, some crazy predictions. Let me know. Let me know. What are your guys' thoughts on my calls here? Do we make some right calls? Do we make some bad calls? What are your guys' predictions? Who do you think ends up winning Major 3? Who do you have in your finals? That is the official question. Who do you guys have in your Major 3 finals? Feel free to let me know. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Make sure if you have not done so already, check out the vlog that we just did, the weekend in the live plus footage from the Boston Major. We will be vlogging here in Texas. And then also check out the most recent video that I put up of Jay and I casting OpTic versus FaZe. It was some of our reactions to the series live as it went on. So you guys have been showing unbelievable support on that. So best believe we're going to be doing that more. And I'm going to try to do it actually here in Texas. So we'll see how that works out. I'm not sure lighting-wise. Sometimes it just does not come out great. Sometimes you have a wonderful, place to put a camera. Sometimes you just don't. So we will see. But regardless, thank you guys for checking out this video, and I'll see you guys back on LandO's Lock-ins very soon.